Will Work for Patients, episode 25. Check it out, Chiro friends.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Will Work for Patients, a free advice podcast dedicated to help chiropractors get on purpose and grow their practices. Get ready to tune in and turn up the volume of your practice marketing. And now, turning up the volume on his mic, big-time chiropractic advocate and your host, here is Frank Sardella.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for that marvelous introduction. And may we all have the good fortune of someday having as much on-air presence as do you.
Me, I'm Frank Sardella, and I'm so happy to be with you here again today in our podcast show. This show is free for you to not only give you marketing help in your practice, but to keep you on purpose, to keep you pumped up, and to keep you going. And that's my commitment in this grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world. So welcome, or should I say welcome back? Well, it's been a long stretch since the last episode, but I can't say it isn't for any good reason. Call it retooling, call it woodshedding, call it whatever you want, but it isn't without good reason, I can tell you that. I've been working on practically nothing else but further development of what I have coined as the true screening process. This is something that's been 20 years in the making, and it has been 20 years well spent on one thing, and that's talking to people. That's talking to prospective new patients and studying them, and that resulted in something amazing. So more on that to come. You can always keep up with the progress of that, and of course, our clients' progress at screeningexperts.com, where you'll be seeing many new and exciting things, including training, courses, webinar opportunities, services, you name it. Anything to help you create and grow a practice, but not everything all at once. My philosophy is to see what is needed just now, start with one thing, grow it, see how it goes, and then the next logical thing will pop up. It's served me well in helping docs for the last 20 years, and whether you ever get to work with me or not, I'm sure it will serve you as well. So, as we say in New York, how you doing? How has it been going since the last episode? Are you applying what you're learning? Has it helped a bit? Please tell me about it. I love getting your letters, and you know you can always reach me at frank.screenings@live.com. Hey, there's nothing much to say about the last episode. The title really speaks for itself. AC/DC was correct. It is a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Indeed it is. But just one comment on that. Who says the ride can't be fun and adventurous along the way, right? I doubt it was a boring way to the top for any rock band, that's for sure. Why should you be any different? All right. Now, you may not believe what I'm about to say next, but if you listen to the show, you at least know what I'm going to say, right? And if you're new, well, you'll learn. We have quite an episode planned ahead of us. Quite an episode. Yes, sir. You're not even going to believe it. In the wake of a lesson taught to us by a great rock and roll giant about reaching the top, you might fare well in having some things to take you there. I mean, if it's going to be a long ride, wouldn't you like to at least be in a vehicle that's going to get you there? And wouldn't you like it to be a vehicle that doesn't break down on you? How about a smooth, comfortable ride with no traffic? Well, it may be impossible on the interstate, but we're talking about your road to practice prosperity. And with the right vehicle, it can be a ride in a lightning-fast sports car. Today's episode is entitled, Won't Anyone Listen to Me? And coming off Halloween a week back is a haunting and eerie, if ever so appropriate, a title for what is about to be a chillingly specific and useful episode. Where am I going with this? Well, it's pretty simple. There is a lot of noise out there right now. Did anyone notice? What kind of noise? Well, you hear it so much, you've tuned it out. So much bombardment of information. You don't hear it anymore, do you? And neither do I. Well, guess what? Neither do your potential patients out there. And that is just unacceptable. Wouldn't you agree? Are you tired of no one hearing your message? Are you getting impatient with what you have been doing to promote your practice? If you're not yet in practice, does the prospect of going out and up against all this noise seem daunting to you? Well, me too. And today, we take a stand and do something about it. Today, we're going to cover a subject that I feel needs covering. We're going to cover not how to get in front of people. No, we've done that one to death, I'm afraid. No, we're going to talk about staying in front of them. How do you constantly stay in front of them is more of the question. And yes, we will cover how to break through the noise too. Because if we know where to go to get them, then we need to know how to get their attention. And once gotten, how do we keep it? Let's just clear that up. If you haven't figured it out, I'm talking about email marketing. Now put down that remote, don't hit pause, because I know what you're thinking, but you just need to hear my guest out on this today, because if you have any misgivings about this subject, you're about to find out why. And we have someone special to give you some idea of how that would be. So strap in, listen up. You're about to get all that, a special guest, and tell you what, a top 10 list too. My special guest today, well, just add him to the top of the stack as one of the many favorite people I brag about here on the show and gush over in every episode. My guest today refers to himself as a small business marketing strategist, but I'm afraid that title doesn't do him justice, and I would prefer to refer to him more as a business growth strategist. And I don't think there should be any implications that the businesses he works with, which do include chiropractors, by the way, should be referred to as small in terms of their growth spurts they start experiencing. Long before many of his staff were walking or talking, this guy was selling and marketing. He's great at talking because he's had lots of practice. He is also fantastically creative and can whip up campaign ideas on his feet at an impressive rate. He keeps his staff on their toes, that's for sure. And they all attempt to catch all ideas and turn them into reality. I can only imagine how that would be. He personally supervises his marketing team at his company, while still finding time to speak about small business marketing and lead generation at, get this, hundreds of engagements per year. And it is especially about this subject matter that makes me interested in bringing him to you. He even has his own podcast now too, and I'm pleased to have him as a guest here on my show. I know, shut up and let the guy speak. So let's let my friend speak for himself. My good listeners and friends, please welcome to Will Work for Patients from Response Targeted Marketing, Mr. Barry Kosire. Barry, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm really happy you're here. I'm going to really grill you today. I hope you came prepared with your sleeves rolled up. I have a question for you, though. How did Response Targeted Marketing start?
I've been doing marketing for a long time, as you mentioned. About 10 years ago, my wife and I decided we wanted to work together. I was just doing market research on my own. And, market research wasn't quite cutting it because we give people these great, beautiful market research reports, and they wouldn't necessarily implement them the way we envisioned. So we decided to take the next step and come up with the whole package that we could give a person.
Well, that's great. Well, I literally can't wait to jump in. So I want to get right to it. And actually, as is traditional here on Will Work for Patients, we always do a top 10 every episode. And I prided myself every time we had a guest contribute. No exception to the rule is you and your generous contribution to this top 10 list. So I'm going to introduce it real quick, and I'm going to jump right into it. Today's top 10 list is the top 10 email marketing perks. Okay, well, let's look at perk number 10. Email can be mobile responsive. Now, I have a little bit of reality on this, but I want you to clarify for me and for the listeners on this one.
About 51% or better of all internet traffic is done via a mobile device. Any medium that you're going to use online has to interact with mobile. And email marketing totally does that, where you can easily customize your emails. We use Constant Contact. It's a beautiful system. And they've got tons of templates that are already mobile responsive. In fact, you can they're so mobile that you can actually create them using a mobile device as well.
I like that. And actually, that last part I didn't know about, being able to create them on the mobile device. Perk number 9, personalization of messages to prospects and contacts.
Yeah, one of the things you can do with email marketing, and personalization comes out a couple different ways. One, it can actually look like it comes from your company because the colors, the logo, you can integrate all these things into your email. The other aspect of personalization is from the aspect of segmenting your list. One of the examples I use in my talks is Joe's Pet Store. And Joe has been really intelligent in that he's separated his list into dog people, cat people, and fish and lizard people, right? and so when he sends out his monthly newsletter, he's got something in there for everybody. But the title of the email, he's able to personalize to that particular list.
So the whole demographic thing is really very, very valuable. Even fish and lizard people, which I love. Okay.
Yeah.
Perk number 8, people already expect to receive email. Now, this seems like such an obvious one.
Yeah, I mean, whereas, social media is really for public relations, and you can't overtly sell. But in emails, we actually expect it. The whole idea is they expect it to be promotional.
So they're already receiving a volume of that kind of stuff willingly because they've opted into some list somewhere or what have you. So email is just habit.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Perk number 7, integrates with social media and online activity easily. I really like that aspect. Tell me something about that.
Well, people expect to be able to click and be able to write to you from social media. Then they expect to be able to find those social media icons in your email. They just mix really well. I mean, they allow each other to work to have really a smooth relationship with the user.
Right. And I think, Barry, people are sort of just randomly putting marketing out there and not creating a campaign out of it. And sort of what you're suggesting here suggests to me that, wow, you have your online activity, your social media, and your email. You're now starting to talk about one concerted effort, which is how I refer to a campaign.
Yeah, you need to be talking about what you're talking about on your website, in your email, on your social, and
I like that.
All of them need to connect.
Very well stated. Okay, moving on. Number 6, engagement. You mentioned about responses. You mentioned that it's sort of a two-way communication here, that it prompts that. So can you comment on that a little bit?
Engagement means participation. So, the true value of online work is to have it be two-way interactive. I've had many conversations with people where we're just having that whole conversation via email.
Yeah.
So that two-way communication, it's like we can have that conversation, and often I do. I always sit there with my email box open because I need all my communication lines to my client open. And so I'm having that conversation, or maybe with a doctor, he may not be able to do that, but you might want to consider having someone monitoring his email for patient questions. The quicker you can answer those, the better. So I might consider, having someone monitoring my personal email for me if I was a doctor.
That's easily my favorite, and I think could very easily be the favorite of a lot of our listeners, just because it's a very frustrating thing to be out there, as I'm sure it is in any business, to just feel like you're just talking out into the community and getting no response. So really having a controllable engagement factor is really good. I like that one, Barry. Thank you. Perk number 5, metrics. And by this, I guess you're talking about measurable responses to the campaigns you're doing.
That's right. You hear about things like Google Analytics, things that measure what's happening with your website. A good program like Constant Contact is a great program that measures who opened your email, but even more importantly, who clicked on what. It even gets down to giving you a list of people who clicked on a certain link. That gives you hot prospects. Like if you send out an article on a certain subject, you give part of it in your email, and then you give the rest on your blog on your website, right? Because your website's really your hub. But you want to see who clicked through to go and read the rest of that article. And that person who took the time to click to go read the rest, well, he's a hot prospect. And you can actually get a list of who those people are. So you could call them. You might have some other emails on that subject to further bring that person down a sales funnel. That's really the true value of it. I
like that. Good. Moving on. Perk number 4. This is going to be a popular one. High ROI potential. Everybody is talking about these days. Return on investment. What's my ROI going to be off this thing? Comment on that, Barry.
Apparently, the return on investment is anywhere from $35 to $45 on the average for every dollar spent in email marketing. There are people who use it very intelligently that get way above that average with their use. And I can just tell you that I've sent out promotions on postcard campaigns. I'll look at the click-through list, and I'll actually pick up the phone and I'll call people based on who clicked through. And I will make sales right then and there.
Wow.
Chiropractors, doctors, dentists use this system. But it's really so simple. Your front desk person could learn how to do it very easily and take it over for you.
Moving on here, getting to the top of the list. Perk number 3, long lifespan.
Yeah, you have to tweet 6 to 9 times a day if you want to possibly grab somebody's attention for a few seconds. But emails have a longer lifespan. It's interesting that if you watch what happens with these emails, you'll have a person who will open that email 6 times. And if it's really good, they savor it, by opening it, and then they open it again, and they'll open it, like I said, 6 times or more. and then they'll put in a special folder for later. You just don't do that with tweets.
Wonderful. I love it. Perk number 2 has a better reach than website and social, which I think is a natural extension of number 3 that we just talked about.
Right. It just really has a different reach than social media. You just have so many more people that use email as opposed to the people that use social media. And there's certain demographics that if you're trying to reach an older demographic, you must include email as part of what you're doing because your chances of reaching them is so much better.
I agree. It's such a direct thing. A person's inbox is like whispering in their ear to me analogously. And that brings us to the top of the list. And the number 1 email marketing perk, it penetrates far deeper. What's your comment on that?
Over 90% of online consumers use email.
Wow.
And I'd say the same percentage, they check their email at least once a day.
Staggering.
So, like I mentioned, there's over 3 billion email accounts.
Wild, staggering statistic. Love it. Love the top 10 list. Thanks so much, Barry, for contributing that list. It was a lot of fun to go through. But now I want to get a little deeper into the subject here, Barry. I promised to grill you a bit, and I want to ask you some more specific questions. I really want to get into why email marketing is valuable. I think a lot of our listeners, a lot of them maybe see it as something that's not going to work, but I think more commonly as they somehow tried it or felt they tried it and failed at it. So I want to get from somebody who's an expert at it why you feel it's valuable in terms of trying to retain your existing patients and cultivate leads and email marketing and all that kind of stuff. So from your experience, what do you feel is so valuable about it and why?
Well, you're looking to stay in touch with people who've come and done business with you, for one, because repeat customers spend on the average over 60% more than first-time customers, just because when they come back, they're more comfortable. That results in them being more comfortable with their checkbook as well. So that's a big deal. And using email marketing helps you to stay in touch with people so they don't get distracted and get lured away by someone else, because people get distracted. In my classes, I do a quick survey. I ask, how many of you have ever gotten distracted? And inevitably, 100% raise their hands. We all get distracted.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about, the noise out there, yeah.
That's right. So repeat customers spend more, so you want to stay in touch with them using like some system. Email marketing helps you do that. Also, by the time someone's come to you and done business with you 10 times, and this would be very applicable to chiropractic, they've referred about 7 people. They've told 7 people in their lives about you.
No kidding.
And statistically, that's very true. So to turn them into a referral engine, you want to keep them coming back. And so, again, you need a good strategy, not just a callback strategy, but an actual campaign using different tools and methods to get them to come back and come back again. And then the other thing is, with somebody brand new to your business, per studies, it takes 7 to 9 touches, meaning you have to reach out to that person and contact them. 7 to 9 touches before they'll do business with you. If they reach out to you, for constant contact, you can have an automated email system set up where you put them into your system, and then they get maybe a series of emails that's been pre-programmed, tell them about some of your different services and introduce you and your staff. And then beyond that, they start getting your monthly emails. Just within that short bit of time, email can actually facilitate 3 of those touches just within the first week without really being irritated, because it's all about that first contact with the person.
Right.
So that actually helps facilitate them because they go from contacting you through your website or over the phone, which also says, hopefully you have your receptionist collect everyone's email address and other contact data. And then from there, right into your system, you start reaching out and staying in touch with them, giving them more reality on who you are and what your practice is. And that email can do a bunch more of those touches that can result in that person making it in there and becoming one of your clients.
I've heard from a lot of doctors and wellness professionals that they've tried and sort of failed at it, or it didn't work. But I'm starting to get the idea that a lot of these things you're saying on how it's done is really things they may not have known up front and sort of unknowingly made the campaign not work.
The area that salespeople fail on, the number one area that they fail on, is follow-up. So when someone contacts your office, they need to go into the system. And you have to have automated systems that continue that follow-up right off the bat. Just imagine your receptionist collects the email address. She puts it right into your email marketing system right then and there as part of the process of what she does. And then, boom, they get a welcome email. Later on that day, they get another email telling them a little bit more about the practice and its philosophy. And then, boom, the next day, here's some of the services we deliver. And then a couple days later, boom, another email. And then obviously it kind of stretches itself out a little bit longer in between emails until you're just receiving the monthly email. But I'll tell you, if you had that process in place, along with whatever other follow-up processes that you had, you would get more people coming in for that first visit.
I'm getting the idea that you really have to have a little patience with it, that over time this will build up.
Yeah, not just patience, but a habit. And you'll get the result if you just stick it out.
I like that. Well, Barry, let's talk about the content of the emails, like what should be in them. You said to me in an earlier phone call with me, content is king, and that stuck with me. So what kind of insight could you give us into that?
Well, here's one thing, is that if you have an image in your emails, you'll actually get 47% more activity with the emails. Just by including an image. Yeah, you just have to stick an image in there. Hopefully it's relevant,
Yeah, exactly.
But, that image actually creates more interaction. And then besides designing and putting your logo, your colors, your branding in there, typesetting it nicely can be a big deal. And then beyond that, what you say matters, including, content like we mentioned, a welcome email. Well, a welcome email should keep someone's attention, give them a little bit of information, entice them, maybe even tell them, hey, I'm going to send you a couple more emails over the next few days to let you know a bit more about our practice. And then from there, your next emails would go into possibly who your staff consists of, with pictures to give more reality. Possibly the next email might give some of the various services that you offer. And here's the important thing about content. You don't want to confuse people. So if you're going to say words like subluxation, right, then, give a good definition that any Joe can figure out. The hallmark of a pro, in my opinion, is can he break down his expertise into language that anyone can digest? Yes,
I'm very adamant about that myself. We call it street language in our coaching.
Yeah, so doing that is part of explaining your services, explaining the conditions that you help treat, and then beyond that with your newsletter, including funny things, interesting things, not just trying to sell people, but trying to educate them, create that engagement that we talked about earlier, entertaining them, giving them some funny stuff, and then also obviously funneling them in towards closing the deal. It's actually pretty easy to find content too. Yeah, for a dentist, she had the funniest newsletter. It was ridiculous. She had pina colada recipes, tax in her newsletter. Yeah, to this day, I don't understand the marketing company that would include those things because it should be relevant, right?
Right.
But relevant can be quite a stretch. We included things in her newsletter when we took it over, such as the animal with the most number of teeth. Or the animal with the largest mouth.
Right.
All sorts of interesting articles about smiling and how a smile can help relieve stress. All this content stuff that people would love that was relevant, but it was fun, interesting. There was definitely a desire being created there.
Well, that's interesting you say desire being created, because here's a burning question for me, Barry. It's all well and good to have great content in your email, right? If I look at a piece of my snail mail that comes out of the mailbox every day, I can have a very plain envelope that looks like it's going to be a solicitation that might have $1 million check in it. And I may just throw it away as junk mail and never open it. So regardless of the content, you can have the greatest content in the world, but how the heck do you get people to open it? That's what I want to know.
Sure. Okay. Well, great. Like you said, we get a lot of spam,
Yeah.
It's
of
100%.
course. That's the noise I was talking about in the beginning of this. It's all noise out there,
That's right.
People
That's right.
tune it out.
Okay, good. So the first aspect of it is who the email's from. So that's the very first thing. Who's the email from? The email has to be from the person who's the most recognizable within the practice. So maybe if Mabel at the front desk knows all the clients, then some of the emails, they could come from Mabel. That'd be okay. But if that's only one of Mabel's jobs and she's only on the front counter a third of the time, so we're always rotating between people, well, then maybe it's the doctor who's the best known person. Whoever the best known, most recognizable person is at the practice, that's who that email needs to come from.
So some of us may have to realize that it might very well be your very personable front desk CA might be the ticket to be heard from. That's a very interesting point, Barry. I like that one.
So also, as part of who the email comes from, you want to also give it an email address that people can recognize. Like sometimes people abbreviate the name of their domain name. Like the name of my company is Response Targeted Marketing. And people have said that that's an awful long email address. But I'll tell you, if I abbreviated it and said RTM, nobody would know who I am.
I see.
So you've got to have an email address that's actually recognizable.
Good advice.
So that's who it's from. But the next thing is the subject line. And in the subject line, we have a little principle we use called the 2x2x2 principle.
Intriguing.
Yeah, and the way it goes is basically like this. You've got about 2 seconds. People are going to take about 2 seconds when they decide to either open or delete your email.
Okay.
So that's the first two. The second two is the first 2 words. They're going to look at those first 2 words, and the purpose of those first 2 words is to get them to read the rest of the email. Like you might have 10 mistakes as your first 2 words.
Ah.
Well, that's that would be good. 10 mistakes. Well, that actually pulls me in and gets me to read the rest. Whereas if I use the words "and here," okay, well, that's not very exciting. Fill in the blank in the rest of the sentence might be the greatest sentence ever, but those first 2 words have to get me to read the rest.
Okay.
And then the last point is today. There's got to be 2. That's kind of a funny 2, right? It means today.
I spell it that way in text language, so that's totally fine. It's acceptable, actually.
Good. Yeah, basically, there's got to be a reason for them to open it now. There's got to be some urgency. Like 10 mistakes you might be making on blah, 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 and how it's losing you money now. So there's some urgency. I've got a few examples of each if you.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. Please do.
Well, good. So here's one. I'm subscribed to Habitat for Humanity, and I get their emails. Okay. So the email I might get is it says March a newsletter. Okay, well, it's pretty boring, and so I'm just going to delete it. Now, I get this email instead, and it's a bit more interesting. Tomorrow, need 3 hammers. Can you help? Okay, good. So now, hey, tomorrow they've got some sort of activity going on tomorrow. I'm going to go check it out. Are my buddies going? Maybe I don't have time, but are there other activities I could go to? I'm going to open that email.
I like it.
So, yeah, it's going to get me to open it and check it out. Here's another example. Bad email title, Joe's Pet Store Newsletter. Okay, so that's boring. I mean, Joe's a great guy. I go there every other week.
Exactly. I know. I already know what's going on at Joe's. I'm in there all the time.
Exactly. Now, now, how about this one? Alert. Help your dog beat the heat.
Ah.
Okay. Well, we talked about Joe. He's smart. He segmented his list. So this is the title that he uses to send to dog owners. And so he uses that. So I open it, but then I find out there's a play date for dogs happening this weekend. So I'm like, I should go to that, So I go and I take my dog and he interacts with the other dogs. And then while I'm there, I buy some stuff. And so it actually got its results. It lured me in.
Love it.
So that was a great email. Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
And then the last example is children's classes, which is kind of boring and dull, right?
Who cares?
Right. Now, we just spiced it up a little bit. We don't even have to get that creative. We can just say, limited spaces still available for our children's classes or something like that. Well,
urgency.
Just the limited space thing. Yeah, there's some urgency.
Yeah.
Now there's a threat too, because what if it's something I was supposed to sign, little Sally up for, or
exactly.
I find out later her friend down the street's doing the class, there's a problem. I'm going to hear about it. So
wow.
I'm just going to check it out just to see what the deal is. So just those little things, those little points there can make the difference between, an open or a not open.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing is when the email is sent. So there are key times to send emails for any industry. And a real simple way to do this, to figure out when, most people are sending their emails out monthly, and you can actually send out more frequent emails if you do a really good job of building your content. And people ask
Mm-hmm.
that too. How often should I send it out? Well, monthly is the usual,
Mm-hmm.
but you can actually send more frequently if you upgrade the content. So, but then when? Do I send it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, evening?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So here's what you do. You basically take your list and you split it up into 3 groups.
Okay.
And you send the same exact email, same subject line to those groups at the same time on 3 different days. And you actually test your days like that to test it out and see which day gets the best open. Yeah, it's a simple, it's a very simple thing. And then next month you could test 3 different days.
Mm-hmm.
And then until you really nail it down and you figure out, but test until you really figure out for sure and for sure that blank day is your best day. It's worth the time to check it out. Then you can do the same thing with time. You can select, once you figure out what that best day is, you can now take that same list, the same 3 lists, and send out at 3 different times during the day. And now you can use that to center in on the best time. Is late morning better, late afternoon, or early evening? And then measure that response, and Constant Contact will actually help you measure that response. It'll actually show you when people are opening those emails, so you can actually take a look at that and do a little analysis of it. And then you've got the best time and the best day. The average return on investment is $35 to $45. But if you use these tips, you can increase that dramatically. So you can really utilize your list to the fullest, with some really good content, by doing it the right time of the day, by segmenting the list. You can actually take this episode here and make a little checklist for your emails. And just follow this checklist with every single email and get, Mabel at the front desk to do this for you, and give yourself a little bit of additional help to really take the time to really turn out a quality email. And it can be tremendous for your practice.
And speaking of making a checklist, I'm one step ahead of you. I'm already making a checklist. I'm running this on my my next newsletters coming up, so I'm going to have to look at that. But I think I can speak on behalf of most of our listeners on that too, that this is really, really good stuff. So let that be a lesson to everybody, that you can take even a failed campaign, and you could probably take just 1 or 2 of these things that Barry talked about today and turn it into something. Barry, thank you for that. That was just fabulous.
You're welcome. Yeah, no problem.
So I just want to recap these points just to go over them sort of one more time in brief. We talked about why email marketing is valuable. If you had to just summate why email marketing is valuable, what would you want someone to take away from this?
Well, we use Constant Contact, and that's pretty much exactly what email marketing allows you to do. It allows you to stay in constant contact with people.
I like it.
Even when you forget to reach out or haven't had a chance to, you can use a system like that to do it for you. So you don't actually fall out of touch or communication with your people at all.
Thank you. And then as far as the content of the email, you said content is king. Is that really the takeaway point, or do you have some other way you'd like to put that?
Well, I'd say that, investing some time in creating some content that you feel is going to be valuable to the consumer, and then looking at it from the viewpoint of the consumer to make sure that it fulfills his or her needs. In other words, the king, if content's your king, he deserves your time, right? And you'd want to think about what he wants, or you could lose your head.
That's right. That's a good way of putting it. Love it. Little brutal, but exactly. And then my favorite part of the episode, and most important, because this was one I most wanted to know too, and how to get those emails open. What would you want everyone to take away from that point?
Again, it's a time thing. I would say you got to invest the time. You want to take these points that I've mentioned regarding getting your emails opened, and then you'll actually get the results. It just is a method that works. It does work. We know it works. It's really just a matter of you putting a little bit of investment in your time. If you help us out and follow the instructions, you'll get the results that we've talked about.
Okay, and those points in brief were 2 by 2 by 2, and also sort of breaking your mailing list up into segments so that you can check different days, different times a day, and so on. Yes?
Yeah, those are the main things. Who's it from? When do you send it? And making sure that that subject line contains a little bit of urgency, those first 2 words that you're thinking about, and such.
Well, that was outstanding. Thank you so much for that, Barry. I really appreciate it. And this has been one of our most exciting episodes, and I didn't even think it would be. I thought email, boring subject, but very, very well done.
All right, great. All right, well, thanks a lot for having me.
Now for the last word. Who gets the last word? I do. After all, it's my show. What should we take away from today's podcast? If anything, I sincerely hope that you'll take to heart one thing, that your current and future patients are tuning out the noise, and that noise may include you. You know the noise I'm talking about. It's what you also tune out every day in your news feed, in your spam, in your inbox, and in your life. We live in an oversaturated media-type society, and it's a wonder that anyone gets discovered. But they do, and that means not only that there is hope, there is also a way to go about it, and you can learn it. Get yourself in front of someone, get their attention, and hold their attention. These are 3 basics that you can follow that will never do you wrong, and you can do that right now. Hey, wouldn't it be amazing if we could look back on this moment and say this is where it all changed? Will today's episode be the turning point of the game? I think it could be on this one, you guys, don't you? All right. Barry, this is a point in the show where we actually put people in touch with you, and I particularly want people to bombard you with either phone calls, emails, or visits to your website, just because you've been such a special guest and that the content you gave us is invaluable. So let's start out with how they can get in touch with you.
You can reach out to me at reallivemarketing.com. That's reallivemarketing.com. And my email address is, well, you just go to the contact form right there on the page. My phone number is there as well, which is 1-800-690-0945. As you mentioned, I just started doing our own podcast, and we talked about a different marketing tool every week. And we've got you planned to be on a future episode as well. Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun.
About trade shows.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about going out in public, and a lot of our public that listen to our show are engaging in screenings and talks and things like that. So I'm sure it'll be interesting. But it'll be a little turnabout. You'll get to play host and grill me for a while, so I'll love that. So that's good. And speaking of putting people in the hot seat or grilling them, we usually pressure you to give some kind of offer, any kind of offer on the show. That you can. So I'm wondering what you can offer our listeners.
Sure. If they go to reallivemarketing.com, you can, right there on the website, you can download 7 worst website mistakes. You can actually download our little ebook there on that. And you can take a look at your own website to see if it's making any of those mistakes and how you can fix it. We consider the website to be the hub of your online marketing efforts.
Me too.
So like all your exactly. All your social media, your email, your website is your hub for everything there. So it's really important that it actually not just be this stale brochure thing that's stuck up there and forgotten about and never paid attention to. So if you go look at 7 worst website mistakes and download that from our website, I think that'll help you tremendously, and you can have your guys fix it and we fixed those mistakes for a lot of people as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And that is a generous offer. reallivemarketing.com. And you can go there. You can download the 7 worst website mistakes, download the ebook, read up on it. Everything that comes from this man seems to be pure gold, guys, as you can see from what we got in the episode today. So thanks for the generous offer. Next episode, how about a guest who's going to talk about Medicare? I have a very special guest who's going to do that. How about one who will talk about dangerous marketing? How about one who talks about community involvement and new patients? Well, all those are on the immediate horizon for your listening and practice growing pleasure. I will work for patients. Incidentally, so will Barry Kosier. So will you? Come on, guys, let's do this, huh? Barry, I can't thank you enough for being here today. I'm just flabbergasted by the amount of information we were able to squeeze into one episode. Not just that we haven't done that before, squeeze this much into this little, but how immediately useful everything you talked about was today. So I really can't thank you enough for taking the time out on a Sunday morning to be able to sit here and tape this show with me. And I know my listeners appreciate it too. So thank you so much.
No problem. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
That's great. And I'm looking forward to being on your show too. I'm going to hold you to it, which will be awesome. Free resources, you guys, YouTube and the blog. I don't have to really get too deep into it because you can hear that at the end of every single episode that I say, but please do listen, subscribe, and download. WillWorkForPatients.com has all of the information. All of our social media you'll find there. Please tune in. You can find us in the iTunes store. You can subscribe directly to our RSS feed. We are in the Windows store now as well if you're on any Windows 8 type device or Surface tablets. And if you're on the Android format, I personally like to recommend the BeyondPod app. It's free and it seems to be the most user-friendly one that I've found.
Remember, this is a grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world like we all want. So let's make every episode count, huh? I know I can count on you. So, my friends, we've come to the end of a response-targeted episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. On behalf of myself, the man, Mr. Barry Kosire, our announcer Michelle, and the rest of the Screening Experts crew, I thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon for yet another noise-canceling episode of Will Work for Patients. So long.
Be sure to subscribe and share. Will Work for Patients has been brought to you courtesy of Screening Experts, bringing unscripted simplicity to chiropractic marketing complexity. Today's episode, copyright Screening Experts LLC, musical score composed and arranged by Frank Sardella ASCAP. For more information, visit screeningexperts.com.